There are about 3 million World War II veterans still alive in the U.S., but due to their advanced ages, it's estimated that 1,000 die each day. With that in mind, the Oklahoma Honor Flights program is increasing the number of trips it's taking this year. 3 trips have been taken so far this year, giving more than 300 Oklahoma veterans a chance to see the World War II Memorial and other meaningful sites in Washington, D.C. We went along on the latest honor flight, June 6th, the 68th anniversary of D-Day.
1940s music greets Oklahoma World War II veterans arriving at Rose State College in Midwest City. Memories of bygone days start to wash over them. The vets are here to register for their honor flight trip to Washington, D.C., scheduled the next morning. Some vets are in failing health. Others are still very strong, despite what they experienced and witnessed more than 65 years ago.
These people, a lot of them, did things and saw things that no human being ought to have to do or see. They did their job. They responded to the call. They came home and buried it deep. Went about building families, building communities, building states, building our nation.
State Representative Gary Bands is the director of Oklahoma Honor Flights. This will be the 3rd trip he has escorted in just the last 7 weeks. Bands says on each flight he has seen the mental and emotional liberation of veterans as some of them open up for the very first time.
We made the invasion of Okinawa on Easter Sunday morning, 1945. First wave hit at 7:30, and I was in the second wave at 8 o'clock.
87-year-old Asel Ackley from Cyril was just 20 years old when he was on board an assault vessel in Okinawa.
Seeing the kamikaze shot down, the Japanese coming in, loaded the front of their plane with TNT and diving into the aircraft carriers and the big ships and the Air Force, the Navy Air Force shooting them down, and I seen them fall pretty close.
90-year-old Arnold Gherkin was also at Okinawa.
The Japanese coming up out of the ground on Iwo Jima, out of the ground underneath our truck.
Were you scared?
If you say you wasn't scared, you wasn't in the Army.
Before heading to their hotel rooms, they were given a grand send-off with a standing ovation and heartfelt thanks.
God bless you, brother.
Veterans were acknowledged individually from the stage.
Hardy Biddy from Seminole was in the Air Force and was in 73 combat missions in the P-47 and was in 2 missions on D-Day.
The 68th anniversary of D-Day would come the next morning as they gathered at 4 a.m. to begin their journey. Veterans dressed in blue polo shirts and their guardians in red boarded buses in the dark of night to head to Oklahoma City's Will Rogers World Airport. After checking in there, a group picture was taken to memorialize this once-in-a-lifetime trip. The 2.5-hour flight was especially poignant for Mr. Ackley, who had never flown on a jet before. Upon landing at Baltimore Washington International Airport, veterans were first greeted by 2 fire department ladder trucks, which sprayed an arc of water over their aircraft. As they deplaned, warm greetings were delivered by Army Major General Edward Leacock and military personnel representing all branches of service. Civilian greeters were more demonstrative. After a bus ride to Washington, D.C., they finally arrived at their first destination, the World War II Memorial, which was completed and opened to the public just 8 years ago. Senator Jim Inhofe and others, including spirited school children, were here to greet them. As the veterans spread out among the many tourists, they each found memorials of the battles they survived. It was a moving experience for Howard Edwards of Muskogee. Tears poured from his face and onto his suit jacket as he remembered the ground battle he fought in the mountains of Italy. He says there were 195 soldiers in his company and only 61 survived, including him and his brother. Mr. Edwards was wounded and received a Purple Heart.
A little while before dark, I heard my brother and another guy hollering, Howard, Howard, and I said, over here, Willard. And he come over and found me. I said, why don't you take that guy? He's hurt a lot worse than I am. He was passed out. He said, no, we came after you. We'll send somebody else after him. And I heard later he was paralyzed from the waist down.
So you count yourself lucky?
Yeah. I've been lucky all my life.
Jimmy Galloway was 18 years old when he was drafted. He He ended up serving in the Battle of the Bulge.
I went across the channel to France 45 days after D-Day, and there were still bodies floating in the English Channel.
Most say it is by the grace of God they are here today. 94-year-old Cecil Nealon was assigned to the USS Pensacola in the Pacific.
And my first engagement after I got aboard the Pensacola in January was Midway, which all consider the turning point of the war. And subsequently, on November the 30th of 1942, off the Philippines, the 4th Battle of Savo, we were torpedoed.
The explosion spread flaming oil throughout the interior and across the main deck of the Pensacola. 125 of the ship's crew were killed. How did you survive?
One bulkhead between me and where the major casualties were, but we survived.
His son is Bob Nealon.
My dad is among those that are the greatest generation. That term is well deserved. And I hope that my generation and those to come can even remotely live up to what they did of surviving the Depression, surviving World War II, coming back and establishing families and making America what it is today.
The visit to their memorial wasn't long. There were still places for the veterans to visit. The Lincoln Memorial was another stop for the war heroes. Despite their age and discomfort, the vets did not seem weary. Some even obliged young people with a photo op. From here, they could view the Washington Monument. It was a short bus trip from here to Arlington National Cemetery. Outside their windows, it was a solemn scene of the breadth of American losses. The changing of the guard ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier gave the Oklahoma World War II veterans the opportunity to pay homage to those who didn't make it. Throughout the trip, Representative Bands was ever vigilant to keep the trip running smoothly and on time. Despite his attention to every detail, he carried an undercurrent of emotion regarding the fragile vets he was watching over.
They did so much for this nation, and we have to ask ourselves who's ready to take their place and continue the legacy that they have left, and ask the question, will they find us faithful?
Back on the plane for the return trip home, 3 veterans were especially recognized because they landed on the beaches of Normandy on this day 68 years ago.
I've been told that the water was red. That's what I've been told. Navy people picking bodies up, and they told me that water was red.
The D-Day vets didn't look back. It was kill or be killed. Were you being shot at?
Certainly. They just missed.
Roy McMahon remembers what his commander said to his unit.
He had stressed to us if any of us quit or failed him, that he would shoot us on the spot. But when he put his foot on the first step to go up in the airplane, he had a nervous breakdown, and they hauled him off in a straitjacket, and we never saw him again.
You were one of Patton's boys?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, nothing to tell. All I could tell you was those generals were really good. They got the job done. They didn't pussyfoot around.
And as the 18-hour journey neared its end, the veterans were humble and thankful to have experienced this day.
This is unbelievable. I never thought of this. I never thought we could have something like this. I don't know if I deserved it or not, but I sure do appreciate it.
Back on Oklahoma soil, a richly deserved homecoming for the American heroes whose numbers are dwindling with each passing day.
2 more honor flights are scheduled this year. Oklahoma Honor Flights is asking any World War II veterans or their family members to contact the organization and register for a trip.